Alright, so this is a review for Uncanny Avengers Volume 1, which is written by Rick Remender with art by John Cassidy for the first four issues, and I think Olivier Coipel for issue 5. I don't have the trade of this, I'm just reviewing the story arc. This is going to be a first. I've got like a dozen reviews I want to tackle out. Just decided to go back to the old podcast style. I've got God of Thunder by Jason Aaron coming hopefully sometime in the next few days or so. All new X-Men. Try and tackle Hickman's first. Well, actually, I might just go back and review all the issues of his Avengers series up until this point. Because I made a bunch of comic reviews, deleted the videos, and just kind of want to tackle the story now that it's a little more coherent. Got a couple of I cannot talk. Have a couple of TV show reviews I want to throw out. Had somebody get me to watch Hung with Thomas Jane in it. Definitely want to tackle True Blood because I've had some problems with that show. And there's a whole slew of other things. Batman by Snyder I want to throw out too. So there's some reviews I got coming up. So just kind of stay tuned for them and we'll go from there with that. But anyways, on with this. Now, Uncanny Avengers is one of the first books that was launched out of Marvel now, and I really had a problem reading this month to month. I love Rick Remender's writing, but a lot of the blame falls on John Cassidy. I know that he's a hailed artist in the industry. He did outstanding work on Astonishing X-Men, but he is terrible with delays. And it's one of the major criticisms I have with his art in this book is that it's good, but then I feel like he had, maybe some other things going on, and he just kind of had this lying around. It's still good, but it looks kind of rushed on a lot of the art that he did, which is, it's not entirely detrimental to the book, but if you're a person who, pays a lot of attention to Cassidy's work, you'll notice something is off in this, but a small criticism. Story-wise, however, I am absolutely loving Rick Remender. I think there's kind of a public perception now for people who read comics that a comparison has come up in between him and Grant Morrison. I know Manos made this comparison. I've been kind of feeling that way since I've been reading his Uncanny X-Force. Now, Remender and Morrison are not... their styles are nowhere near the same. What Remender does is, like Morrison, he takes these far-out concepts, and he obviously likes a lot of superhero stories past, and he brings them up in the present and just does a stellar job with it. However, where that similarity with Morrison stops, a stronger difference occurs and favorably works in Remender's favor a little bit more is that his concepts are much more coherent. Where, unlike Morrison, who takes all of this fucking non-linear storytelling, which it works well on some things. The stuff that he did on Action Comics I'll kind of cover as well in another review, but really gave me a problem with his Action Comic stuff. But Remender is still doing a fantastic job with this. What the concept of Uncanny Avengers is it spins out of a conversation that Captain America has with Cyclops at the end of AVX while Cyc is in jail. Now, both of these guys are acknowledging faults in some things, and one of the things is that Cap has this guilt trip that he realizes that he and the Avengers have not really done anything to sway humanity's tide of hatred against a lot of the mutants. Now, the X-Men and the Avengers have worked together in the past, but there's never really been anything where the Avengers just stood up and say, hey, you need to stop hating these guys. All mutants are not alike. And Cap really wants to do something about it, and he sees this as an opportunity to go and do a little good PR for the mutants by forming a squad to be half composed of Avengers and half of the X-Men. Cap, Thor, Wolverine round out the Avengers, and Rogue, Scarlet Witch, and a surprise Havoc are the main members of the team that he uses. Character-wise, Thor is really downplayed in this book. Now, the most important thing that you're going to see with him is when he's under mind control in issue 3, and, the Uncanny Avengers have to turn on him and fight him off from the Red Skull's control, which is pretty good. But Wolverine has slightly more character time, but out of the 6, he's probably like the 5th most character time out of anybody. And the best character development with him comes up in the first issue. They're having Xavier's funeral, and he sits there and he's kind of lamenting with everybody who's attending about the fact that, Xavier's dream about mutants and humans uniting never happened. And that speech was kind of the guilt trip that helped push Cap along to make the Avengers Unity Squad. Wolverine's words basically tantamount to, Xavier had a dream, and unfortunately he died, and it never happened, and we fucked up because that dream did not happen. So this is kind of Wolverine a little bit too with the guilt trip is working with Cap, and the Avengers Unity Squad comes about. Now, before there can be a proper PR introduction of this new lineup of Avengers, the Red Skull shows up, and what he does is that he actually takes, and he's been operating on mutants' brains, and he sends, what's the guy's name? Avalanche. He sends Avalanche out in a public attack, and there are hundreds of people that wind up dying in this attack. But while all that's going on, he shows up at the Avengers Mansion with a bunch of human mutates that he calls the S-Men. And he digs up Charles Xavier's body, steals his brain, and then fuses it with his own. And now he's a major threat that's trying to take out Cap, and just somehow has a anti-mutant agenda that we've known nothing about until now. But again, this is the far-out Remender concept, but we'll go along with it. Now, the thing is that while this is going on, Rogue and Scarlet Witch are actually upset. Wanda actually shows up at Xavier's grave before Red Skull steals Xavier's body, and she and Rogue actually throw down with the fact that Rogue's not happy that Wanda actually dares show her face at the school. And it's an interesting little parallel in between her and Wanda, which happens, because especially with the way that Rogue was introduced to the X-Men in the first place. They throw down, and, over the course of the series, at certain moments, they do kind of realize they have to work together, but the animosity is still present, and it's a really interesting take on these two as far as the parallels go, and just something that they're going to have to work out as the series goes on, but at least for the little bit of character development that we do get for the both of them, I do think Remender does a terrific job with this. Now, with Cap and Havoc as being the two main characters in this series, Cap actually decides to have Havoc leave the team. Alex is a little bit nervous about doing this, and, he's like, Cap, anytime you want to, you're welcome to take over. He's like, no. You have to be the one to lead this team. If there's going to be a face out there for the mutants, it has to be you. And this is especially ironic considering the fact that, he is Scott's younger brother. And given all the shit that has happened, it's, again, kind of like with the Wanda and Rogue parallel, it's something that he's kind of having to bear a lot of burdens of. What's really interesting that Remender decides to do with Cap in this issue is that he also establishes that Cap is a bit of a bigot, mayhap. That he's always kind of had a little bit of a bias against mutants, and it's added to the fact that he's also letting Havoc lead the team, and he feels a little bit inferior in a subordinate's role. Now, at least he's trying to overcome his adversity with mutants, but the whole thing about him not being comfortable as a subordinate, I think it's kind of his own fault that he let himself get into this place, but at least he's working to try and compensate for that, which I'll give him props for that. Remender is taking Cap to a different area that we haven't seen him before, so this is good. I like it. As far as it goes with the S-Men, they're really not anything special. There's some interesting mutations which are brought up in here. But, again, I find this kind of ironic with the Red Skull's whole anti-mutant campaign popping up. You know, he does want to take out Cap, but at the same time, the idea that he's trying to make the world a better place by ridding mutants is a little bit on the hypocritical side. Reason why I say that is you stole a mutant telepath's brain and then you wound up bonding it with your own. So if you're wiping out the mutants, what exactly does that fucking make you? I just think that's intrinsically funny. But the problem is that as it gets on with the battle, because there are a lot of major street battles that take place and there's a lot of people caught in the crossfire. The worst thing about the end, I'm not going to spoil the circumstances of how the battle works itself out, but I'm just going to say that it's not exactly a win, and there's kind of a point where Cap and Havoc are looking over, and they realize that maybe this is a win as far as a PR campaign goes, but it's not exactly a win in terms of the fact that there's a lot of life lost at the end of the battle. Especially when Red Skull makes his escape, and then we get this tease at the end of it. Remender is kind of like Hickman a little bit. Every few issues, he likes to tease things. There's this really interesting scenario that we get in issue 4, where Red Skull is kind of broadcasting a little bit of reality warping around everyone. And at the end of the issue, we get, in a Days of Future Past type scenario, we get this tease at a certain X-Men villain, because since he has Charles Xavier's brain, there's also a connection to this old villain that's teased. And I just went like, wow. Remender actually went there. And it comes from a particular story that I'm not fond of as an X-Men fan, but at the same time, in his hands, knowing how well capable that he is of handling stories that work themselves out in the future, I just thought, oh fuck yeah, I want to see where this is going. So the main tassel with the Red Skull and a lot of the Uncanny Avengers coming together is the primary focus of the first 4 issues. Issue 5 deals with more recruiting going on. There are more Avengers and lower tier mutants that are brought into the spotlight for this series, which is pretty cool, actually. And this is the official introduction of the team being exposed to the press. And this is a really intense book. It does get gory at a lot of times, and it feels like an Ultimates book, but at the same time, it's one of the things I like about Remender. He's dark, things can get a hell of a lot bloody at times, but it's not shock value stuff. Well, there is shock value stuff, but it does come with a purpose in the story, and in his hands, I do think that this is a series that certainly deserves merit to be read by anyone that is wanting to get into Marvel now. This is an excellent series in its first 5 issues. I highly recommend it. The tease of things to come. There's the tease at the end of issue 4 is a bit of a mind fuck. It also kind of requires you to at least have some background of what happened with Uncanny X-Force. If you don't read that series, at least wiki it, because there are things that happen in that will be brought up quite heavily in this series, especially with the present issues as it goes along. But I absolutely recommend this series. I think it's fantastic, and I think that you should definitely check it out.